Well, welcome everybody. This is March 27th, 2020, and we are about to jump into our first Stagen Community Forum. The primary intention of today's call is to bring us together as a community so that we can experience this leadership moment together. And that does not mean that we, the Stagen faculty, are asking you to come and hear us dispense answers because we do not have any answers. What we do have is the opportunity to convene a community of leaders who share a common commitment to learning, to growth, to playing the long game, and to engaging and supporting each other. So Andy has volunteered, thank you again, Andy, to be our first report from the field of what he is doing as a member of this community to lean into what he is going to describe as hashtag offense, to lean into this moment in history as an opportunity to grow and as an opportunity to contribute, as an opportunity to serve. And I'm very excited about the story that he's going to share with you. So what we want to emphasize is that your mood as a leader matters, and it matters a lot right now. You are setting the tone each time that you're on a conversation over the phone, on Zoom, in any other technology you may be using virtually. You as the leader of your group, of your company, of your department, you are setting the tone. You are creating the conditions for how people are going to experience that exchange, that interaction. And as we start this, as is so often our best practice, with awareness there is choice, just reminding you of some of the fundamentals of our training. And without awareness, only habit. And what I sent out in the invitation was a frame to acknowledge and to be compassionate about this, that most of the world right now is reacting to our crisis, and reacting to that crisis from a place of fear. And we can think about these three reactions that I want to review as avoiding, to just avoid the crisis. And one way to avoid it is to just suggest that it's not happening. Another way to avoid it is to turn to things like alcohol or other or eating as ways to try to just avoid or to numb the pain. Another way that many are responding to this is to conform, is to simply give up our independent thinking, give up our agency, and to just say, I'm just going to go along with what the authorities say, with what people who are, quote, in charge say. And the final common way of reacting to a crisis is to rebel, is to suggest that this isn't happening, that this is a hoax, this is bullshit. Why are we making the decisions that we're making as a society? And so we want you to see that those three reactions are actually coping mechanisms. How do we cope with what's happening? And what we are going to challenge you into, and Andy in particular, is to move away from, possibly for all of us at times, this desire to just want to trench in and cope. And many of those that are on our teams are asking us, when is it going to get back to the pre-crisis normal? And this question that I think all of us can appreciate, when are we going to get back to normal? And the likelihood of us going back to normal is very low. We need to see this not as a coping opportunity, but as a growth opportunity. How do all of us help those that we are leading see the future as a new future, not returning to the old reality, but working together to co-create a new reality? So with that, it is my distinct pleasure to hand over the rest of the next 15 minutes in the main room to Andy Eby, president of Bickford Senior Living, based in Kansas City, 65 locations, senior living locations around the country, 3,000 residents. The average age, just to be sober here, 88 to 90 years old. So for many of us who feel that we have a challenge to deal with taking care of our stakeholders, Andy's challenge is at a level that most of us cannot even relate with. And with all that, while his industry is playing defense, while his industry is coping, while his industry is avoiding, and while his industry is conforming or rebelling, Andy is taking the road less traveled. So with that, Andy, you have 15 minutes. the con is yours.
Thanks, Rand. And hello to all my friends. I'm looking at here, we have over 240 people on this call. I'm freaking blown away. And I notice inside of me this anxiousness to share something wise with you. And I just want to give I just want to put it out there that as appreciative as I am of Rand's introduction, we don't have anything figured out, but what my goal is to do is to share with you where I'm at in my heart and what is inside of me and what is going on inside of me as a leader. And my hope is that that serves you in some capacity. The frame that I'm sharing with myself as I notice this is something that Rand sent me a while back. Wisdom tells me I am nothing. Love tells me I am everything. Between the two, my life flows. And I'm going to try to allow my life to flow to you here this morning. So what I would like to do is to invite you into a little bit of a conversation of what's going on inside of me and an energy that's emerging as I lead during this time. And when I start to connect with it, some challenger energy starts coming out, and many people experience that as maybe a red energy as a negative form of aggression or something. But that is something that I relate with very positively and helps me step into new territory. It gives me energy to create change and innovate and put myself out there. So if you just give me some permission to allow Enneagram 8 to be a challenger and allow the red that's inside of me come out, just give me some space in which to do that. So I apologize if that doesn't go good here for you. But as Rand was speaking of hashtag offense, that's just a personal mantra that has grown inside of me. And I want to tell us a little bit of a story of where that came from. Most of you guys know the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl. I live in Kansas City, so obviously it's a big part of our community. And Kansas City Chiefs, the offense of the Kansas City Chiefs is a very aggressive offense. It's a very attacking offense. It comes at you in many different ways, many different forms, many different schemes, many different strategies. It's very attacking. And when they were playing in the Super Bowl, they had the biggest player in the league, Patrick Mahomes. And he was playing in the biggest game of his life, the Super Bowl. And he started out in that game, and he wasn't playing very well. He was struggling. He wasn't in sync with his team. He wasn't in sync with his wide receivers. They were going in different directions. They looked slow. They looked defensive, and they looked back on their heels. And there was a key moment in that experience of watching the game that I remember, and it was when Coach Andy Reid, the head coach, and Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, were sitting on the bench, and the camera just showed them two just talking. And I always wondered I was wondering what they were talking about in that moment, because it was such a critical moment. And right after that is when the Chiefs came out and the offense just started attacking, and they started to be offensive, and they started attacking from different places in different ways. And they ended up scoring tons of points, winning the Super Bowl by a pretty wide margin. And after the game, an interviewer asked Patrick Mahomes, they said, "Man, what was that moment between you and Coach Reid? What was that? What did you guys talk about? Did you change the strategy? Did you do something different?" And Patrick Mahomes just started laughing, and he said, "He didn't tell me anything. He just told me, keep slinging it." He goes, "You're the best player in the league, and we are an attacking offense, and you're capable of stepping up in this moment and just lead. Keep slinging it." And when I heard that, there was something deep inside of me that felt that comment by Patrick Mahomes. And I want to share a little bit of the context of why that little comment of keep slinging it, we're an attacking offense, was so meaningful to me. Is the context of that is our last year as an organization. I've shared this at different times. It was very difficult. It was a very challenging time from a financial standpoint. We were one event away from losing our company in many different capacities. And when things go like that in our lives that are uncertain, unknown, we're about to lose that in which we love. From a leadership standpoint, what I notice in myself is that there's a tendency to stay on the sidelines, to be defensive, to play small, and freeze. And that's kind of where I was, I think, at the start of last year. And it was this community, the coaches of this community, the leaders of this community, my friends and classmates who are on this call with me that gave me the confidence to follow and lead what is in my heart. And in many ways, last year, I felt like I was that Patrick Mahomes sitting on the sidelines while I had the Stagen community around me, just saying, keep slinging it. Focus on, follow what that is, which is in your heart. And so that's what we did as an organization. We kept slinging it. And we started to put out everything that we had, everything that was available to us. We started putting out there. We started innovating. We started creating change. We started doing new things that we had never thought about doing before. And in what emerged as a result of last year is this growing confidence in our ability to lead and our ability to incite change, not only in our organization, but in the industry. And it gave us a lot of confidence. And while we're still on the edge as a company today, we're still here because of the offensive leadership in which we started showing last year. So in the last several weeks, as this coronavirus pandemic really escalated, we as an organization, I as a leader, was still in a very offensive attack mode. And while this world was shutting down to stay safe, our leaders, our organization started showing up to serve in new and more innovative and creative ways. And what we've observed in our industry and what you are probably observing in your businesses and your industry is this tendency to play small, to freeze, to bunker down and go in self-isolation, self-protection mode. And even though that we're in an industry that serves the most vulnerable, we still feel that we are pushing the people in which we serve to where individuals in the community who are having needs, we're still inviting them in to meet those needs because we feel a great responsibility to meet the needs of the population that we're serving. And we're coming out with being very aggressive and stepping into this unknown arena with offense. And we're not sitting back and waiting. And I want to share a little bit of a personal example. You know, there's a lot of examples that I could share that illustrate this. I just want to speak from my heart as a leader and how I'm changing my leadership. And I don't know if it's right, but it's what I'm doing. Most of my leadership, I spend side by side with our people. I want to be in relationship with our people. I want to visit our communities. I want to be there with them, experience with them. And it's very much of a personal connection that we believe creates performance and leads the type of organization that we want to do. But with where the virus is now, that type of leadership is no longer available to me. And it's really no longer available to many of you guys. Because specifically to us, the vulnerability of the population we serve, our communities are on lockdown. We're not allowed to have any visitors that are able to come in. And if you can imagine that, if you can imagine the amount of fear and uncertainty that exists out there in the population that we serve, imagine having a loved one living at a community who's very frail, and you as a family are unable to see them. Imagine living in a community that someone in that community has been diagnosed with COVID, because we have that as a reality of the business we face. And imagine you're a young caregiver who is showing up to work for an hourly based job, and you're going to be interacting with this disease that the media is expressing so much fear. And there's really a lot of uncertainty around. And during this time, our teams, our people, our residents, our families, our employees need leadership. They need leadership from me. They need leadership from our people. And the way in which I've led in the past is no longer available. I can't be there. So what does that lead me to do? I think what I'm seeing a lot in the marketplace, it's a lot of people just really struggling and figuring out what to do. Me, our Bickford Senior Living, the teams that I'm around, we're just slinging it. We're doing everything we can to be in front of and be in relationship with all those that we're serving. And the question is, how do I not just communicate with my teams? How do I lead my teams virtually? How do I not just communicate with my stakeholders? How do I lead them virtually? And what I know is during this time, what our people need to feel is they need to feel my heart as a caregiver. They need to feel my love as a leader. And I have to find a way for them to allow them to experience that as an opportunity, to experience my love as the love and the things that are inside of my heart. And when I look at what's in my heart, sometimes there's real strong moments of clarity. Like I know exactly what I want to say. And so then I'm learning how to say that. There's other times that I'm just sitting in a tension about the unknown. And I want to learn how to enroll my people into that conversation, into that tension with me, to where the considerations that I'm trying to figure out how to lead, these polarities that I'm trying to figure out how to serve and meet residents' need and how to keep my employees safe is a conflicting polarity at times. And don't know the answer of how to do that. But if I can find ways to in which enroll people into that conversation, they got to feel that from me. They got to hear that from me. And so just some strategies in which I'm doing is the only way I felt like I could do that is just to really start videotaping me. So in the last week and a half, we've created 4 different video messages that we're putting out and distributing in a variety of mediums, social media, texting, email, a variety of mediums. And what those are is something I'm noticing that's arising in me, a message that is coming inside of me that I want to say. And just at the end of the day, not overthinking that message, not trying to figure out is that message politically correct, not try to curate and craft that message with long periods of time and with a lot of people. If there's something that arises in me, I get the video and I film it that night and I send it that night. Because this world the world in which we're all living in right now is moving and changing every day. And what I notice is that if I sit back and wait for the right time and try to bring all my people in here and try to make through all these real thoughtful decisions, then I'm going to lose the relevant, the core message that's inside of me. And I'm not offering that to our people. And so that's something that I'm learning how to do and being very aggressive in the messages that we're sending out. And if you want to experience those, follow Bickford Senior Living on Facebook as that's where some of them are coming out. And as I was starting to do this, I started noticing some of my friends and peers in the business community, and specifically, and I noticed them living in this very defensive, protective position, just isolating themselves, trying to figure out what to do. And I called one of my friends in the community. I played with him formally. He's a very influential consultant in a specific industry. And I called him and I said, how are you leading during this time of national crisis? And much like a lot of the conversations with a lot of people, he's like, well, I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm trying to see if I should do this. And he's giving me all this hee-hawing about what he should be doing right now. And I was like, have you put anything out there? And he was like, no. And I said, why not? And he's like, I'm trying to figure out, what is my voice? What should I be doing? What should I be saying? I said, what's inside of you right now? What if you just listen to that? Just tell me what's inside of you. What do you think is important that your people hear? And he told me, and I was like, that is beautiful. Offer that. He's like, well, I'm going to have to figure out how to video it. I go, screw that. By the time you figure it out, it's gone. And that people wouldn't have the opportunity to experience it. Record it tonight, send it out. He did. And the national news picked it up. And now he's doing all this leadership crisis stuff in the world. And like he's leading an entire industry in it. And it's because he had to find a way to get on offense and be aggressive. I also noticed this a little bit in the Stagen Leadership Academy, my conversation with Rand. I kind of felt, just with this community, with the leadership of this community, I kind of felt a little bit of a defensive position. With all that's gone in the crisis, I'm like, where's the Stagen message? Where's the Stagen community? And what I started thinking about is, we all know that the strength of this academy, why so many people are here on the call, is the such thoughtful curation of leadership principles and practices. And the amount of work that it takes to create that is far more difficult than I think any of us really understand. And my concern was that the drive for the quality and the thought leadership was getting in the way of engaging vulnerably in the tension of the time. And so I sent a message to Rand, and I sent a quick message, and I said, are you sitting back on defense with all that's coming after you? Or are you finding a way to attack on offense? And I did a little hashtag offense. And I didn't get a response for a few days, which means that I may have poked a bear with that comment, but I'm glad I did, because there's 240 leaders on this call today that came as a result of that poke. Because we needed this community. Because in my experience, in my life, this community is where I gained the strength and the confidence in which to lead. And when I look at the list of the people that are on this call is some of the best leaders that I know. Some of the best leaders that I feel like are in the world are on this call. And we have the potential. This community has the influence and the potential to be creative in how we solve these world's problems that are coming to us. And we have the capacity to do something big, but we cannot be in protection mode. We have to be on offense. We have to be in relationship. We can't be sitting at a cabin in the woods in vacation homes of what's going on in there. We need to be in relationship with the people in the way in which we can. And my question to you on this call, for all of you on this call, is what is your posture of leadership right now? Have you been sitting back on your heels in a defensive position, copying what your peers are doing? Or are you finding a way to step up, step in, lean in, and be on offense? I'm going to close with this last comment. When Kansas City was down by 14 in the Super Bowl, there was a video clip of Patrick Mahomes looking at his star tight end receiver and said, let's go do something special. And let's do something that everyone will talk about forever. And he pointed right at him. And there was this moment between the two of them. And what this time is for us, and what I remember of playing, is that they always said, big time players make big time plays in big time games. And this is the biggest game that any of us have ever played in. And the world needs our leadership to be on offense. That is my heart as a caregiver. I don't know if that's right, but hopefully that's where I'm at. And hopefully that serves you. I love you guys very much. I'm very proud of the leadership that we're going to be providing. Thanks, Rand.
Andy, love to you and appreciation to you. I want to acknowledge that that there's a direct correlation, and I want to just be honest with everyone. I told Andy to be honest with his experience of me. He didn't just poke me once. He didn't just poke me twice. He poked me a third time, and he was basically like, "This is unacceptable that you're not responding, and in your lack of response, you are responding." And at that point, I mobilized myself. I mobilized the Stagen team. We organized this call. We figured it out. We're not doing it perfectly, and we just did it. And if it wasn't for Andy, we wouldn't be having this call. And if it wasn't for this call, hopefully catalyzing all of you to go out and play offense, the things that are going to ripple in the world because of this gathering, this Friday, next Friday, the next Friday, and there are already people chatting me privately saying, I'm going to do something like this for my stakeholders in my community. So whether it's sending videos over your phone, sending videos on Facebook, whether it's hosting and convening Zoom conferences like this, we all need to figure out how to see this as a growth opportunity and our responsibility to lead into the future. And we're a couple of terms that I want to play back and as a close. And Harpreet said, there's this attitude of like hunker down. So I want everyone to think about our potential temptation to say, when someone says, how you doing? To say, oh, I'm hunkering down, or we're just gonna weather this storm, or we'll have to just kind of get through this. And that language is the language of the victim. That language is the language where the world is happening to us. And if I bring Andy's sharing back to our curriculum, the move out of drama into empowerment, the move out of being the victim to being the creator, the move out of focusing on what's wrong, the problem, and actually focus on the outcome that we want, even when we don't know what the future looks like, we can, an old English word that Vid and Uncle Rick use in the advanced leadership program, cottywomple, to travel purposefully toward a vague destination, to travel purposefully toward a vague destination. None of us know what the future is going to look like. However, we have this community and we have our own communities to draw upon, to give ourselves permission to just start acting and learning. And so with that, on behalf of the entire Stagen faculty and the Stagen community, thank you all for being here.